Okay, everything is up and running. The recording is working. The transcript is recording. So eventually we will have the whole bundle again. Maintenance and monitoring is the module at hand at the moment. What that means that from this perspective, we are going to discuss, let's say, a couple of the tools that are available to us in the platform, how to or our, let's say, best practices to troubleshoot, a little bit how what the flow is of the provisioning tasks in operations, what you can find there, etc., etc. Um, the advantage of this is that most of what you will hear here will not change when we go to version 21, because this is the functionality of the platform. This is not, let's say, a module that is added or something else that is bolted onto the platform. The question from Anna Paula, will creating a reseller now make upgrading? No, no. The upgrade process for resellers now or resellers in version 21 doesn't make a change. The upgrade is not affected by it. The only difference would be if version 21 for you meant that you would go to a, let's say, SaaS environment where we have to take all your data. And the problem is we cannot take your data. We have to take all your customer accounts. We have to take all your reseller accounts and migrate them over. Even though it's still the same database, we cannot say, okay, let's take a database dump and apply it to a CB SaaS environment. So that would make it a little bit more laborious. On the other hand, if you're going to CB SaaS in half a year, you don't want to miss that half year of business from a reseller and the reseller's customer. So I don't see a reason to hold off from creating resellers at this moment. I would say just go for it, create them. And the process is still the same. The process is the same in version, and it actually is not even that difficult or different from version 5.3, where I started with this platform, to version 21. The process is still a 3-step process that I'm going to explain to you on Monday.
Okay. So there is no big issue. If I create a reseller now, it wouldn't probably give me any issues like more steps in the migration or something.
If it's a big migration, I mean, of
It
course, there is one
I
account.
mean 25 to 21. I'm upgrading from
Yeah, I know, but
25 to 21, but
yeah,
I have more steps because of that. We will have to do anything else besides the 100,000 things I already have to do.
that's the thing, right? I mean, of course, you have more accounts to migrate from 20.5 to version 21, but
It's just the
since we're
accounts.
still in the
It's
same
not.
database, we maintain the database and we read that one from version 21. So there is not that much difference.
Okay, so in steps for us, it's not that different. It
I would
won't
say not. I would say not.
aggregate any new steps. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Maintenance and monitoring. Maintenance and monitoring is the story about troubleshooting and tools available to us. It's a story where we want to talk about the monitoring tools. We want to look at the tasks that we have, task dependencies, what events there are, etc., etc. So let's start looking at the tools. And in our system, And this is where there is a difference between the owner of the platform, and that means the people that work at provider level, or the resellers, because some of these tools are only available to the provider, to people working at provider level. And that, Ana Paula, might be a difference in the future when you go to version 21. It depends on how we migrate you. If we do a one-on-one migration and you work now at provider level, you will work in version 21 at provider level as well. However, what I've also seen is that, let's say, every entity is moved one level up, meaning that people that work on provider level will be migrated to a level 1 reseller, and everybody that was a level 1 reseller will now be a level 2 reseller. From the hierarchy perspective, nothing changes, but from a rights and privileges and tools perspective, a lot changes. So that is something to keep in mind when you're going to upgrade to version 21. Where are we ending up? Where are we ending up?
Why would we be changing this? I don't understand. Like, why would you do that? Why would you change the hierarchy?
The reason to do this, for instance, is to, let's say, separate managed services from the customer account. Managed services will, in that case, and that's for most scenarios, the reason. Managed services will get L0 access. The staff of the partner will get L1 access, meaning that people cannot break things because the system is going to be completely different. We're not talking about servers anymore. We're not talking about networks anymore. We're talking about a Kubernetes cluster where a lot happens automatically. And we've seen that not all partners can handle that change, and they want to do what they've always done, and they try things and break things. So there might be a step, but that is something for you to discuss with, or the moment you're discussing the whole upgrade process. Where are we going? What are we doing? Where will our accounts end up? Do we still have L0 or will we have L1 access?
Okay, it's just that right now we have no resellers, no active resellers. At least we have like 4 in station, but none of those are active.
Yeah.
And the idea is to have a new one. So when we discussed this with our team and in the meetings, we said, okay, we have no resellers, and it appears that we need to create a reseller now. It's a new requirement we have. That's why I'm pushing for resellers training, because I have no idea how to do that. I have some idea, but I never worked with resellers before. So yeah, that's why I'm worried, because I saw I felt that the question was important,
Yeah,
there was something attached to it.
Keep that question until Monday, because Monday's reseller day now is monitoring tool day.
Oh, okay. It's just that because I need to answer today.
Okay.
The reseller thing. Yeah.
So as far as I can see, when you do an in place between quotes upgrade of your platform to version 21, you create your own Kubernetes cluster.
Yes, that's what we're doing.
Yeah. In that case, you will probably hook up to the existing database. The platform will read what's in the database, because the platform itself does not store anything. It stores everything in that Postgres database. So if the reseller is in that database, guess what happens? The platform reads the database, sees the reseller, and assumes it's a reseller. It's nothing more than that.
Okay. So you two just there will no, besides the decision if I'm going to change any levels or whatever, which in our case doesn't make sense because we would have only one level, right?
Yeah.
So besides that, there shouldn't be an issue for the upgrade.
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I'll bring that question to in the meeting today. I have a upgrade meeting today. Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Do that. Okay. The tools that we have for monitoring the platform, we have a couple, 9 on screen. We've got the system component state. This one, and that is a big thing, this one is going to disappear anyway. because we don't have system components anymore. Everything is a module or is a pod in Kubernetes with a microservice. We don't have system components. We don't have we don't have service controllers anymore. So this one is going to disappear. I'm not going to even talk about it because it already probably has disappeared in 20.5 for the majority of things. I talked about provisioning queues when we were talking about orders. We also talked about order queues. So I'm not going to redo that. I'm going to show them again to you. Remember, this is where they were. We have the order module, order management module for the admin training. And you can find the entire story about provisioning and order queues in there. Problem reports in billing is something that I have not seen anymore in version 21. In my system, it doesn't show those problem reports anymore. So we are looking at log files more and more. And that has to do with the fact that we don't have servers. We don't have servers anymore that report to syslogs. It's a Kubernetes system that has its own logging mechanism.
Oh, so we don't have the problem reports anymore? They were useful.
I know.
Because I don't have access to the I don't have access to the server, so yeah, this is how that's my version. But I would like, if I have an issue, I just click problem, and then I download the log, and then I am able to to get information.
I realize that. I know what you're talking about, and for me, the first time that I didn't see those was something for me that surprised me as well. What happens is we have extensive logging at Kubernetes level. So, and that is, of course, let's say that's the meta information, that's the meta platform, and we don't want to pull that into our hierarchy. So we still have that. We use that one at this moment to show logs and watch logs, etc. But yeah, that's one of the things that I myself also was, I would almost say, surprised about, that one was going to disappear.
Scheiße.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. What more do we have? We have, let me go forward. Let me show the slides and go forward. We've got our provisioning status, of course, where we can see what is happening. That is something I already mentioned, but we can see that a subscription is enabled, but that provisioning failed. That the subscription is enabled and that provisioning is in progress. And that at that point, there is a show tasks that are related to this issue. So I see which tasks are related. If these tasks are either not finished in a successful status, or they have actively failed. The first one is, of course, the in progress. The other one is the failed status. This is subscription status, provisioning status, is what we see in operations. Subscription provisioning status, right? Last order ID, APSU ID, and this is where your tasks are there. Here we see, for instance, that there was a subscription that was disabled, but the provisioning part failed, and I can just click this. See what is there. Basically what it is just, it brings me to the tasks option here with an immediate filter for the subscription ID that failed. It's nothing more, nothing less. So I don't need to look into this. I can just copy the subscription ID, go to tasks itself, and paste it in myself. That would exactly bring me where I am now. I can go in here. I can see what's there. It's an internal server error where the disable parameter or sorry, the disable action on this resource, on this subscription, was has failed. We use that token, we see that it was rescheduled multiple times, and that is exactly what I want to discuss next, because this is a good example of what we try to say here. Any task in operations starts unprocessed, then it runs. If it fails once, it doesn't go to failed yet, unless it runs outside. It let's say tries to provision to Microsoft, and Microsoft says provisioning failed. In that case, of course, the task of provisioning fails. But if it fails within operations, it goes to rescheduled, and it runs again. It goes to rescheduled, it runs again, it goes to rescheduled, etc., etc. And then eventually it goes into a failed status. And this is what we see here. We see that this task ran multiple times, at least every half minute. And after a couple of runs, the system decided, okay, this is not going to work. I'm going to put this in a failed status. At that moment, I can cancel the task tree if I want to, or I can try to manually run it again. Refresh. And we see that now it failed again. So it will go through a couple of these runs at this moment, and it tells me that it fails there. There's probably an endpoint or an instance of an application that does not support this. There's my task log. I can again go in and see what is there. Let's go back to this one. If a task is failed, I can do two things. There was a reschedule option and there was a cancel task tree option. I can cancel it. If I figured out why it went wrong after that fact, I can also try to reschedule it again. Or if I know why it's going to fail in the future, and it's still in a rescheduled status, I can cancel it as well. Of course, the idea is that it does this, right? It goes from unprocessed to successful. The task log is your help, and a task can also be blocked by other tasks. So if there is an order to build things, first create a tenant, then create a license, etc., and the tenant cannot be created, guess what happens with the task of creating the license? I showed you the task manager in operations, where there are statuses there: running, rescheduled, failed, success. We have the controls: cancel task tree or run task. We've got our execution logs. The tabs that we have further depend, no, sorry, not that one. This one depends on a very specific service called Cloud Infrastructure Automation. We also have tasks in billing. In billing, the operations tasks option are about events that happen. And events that happen are, sorry, it does it again, are about subscriptions that should happen on the billing side, whether it hands it over to operations. This one failed, so the subscription will not be started. Let me go there. Let me go to billing. Here's my tasks thing. We have our order flows. We had one on the 10th of December. We've got all events here. We've got active tasks that are running at this moment. Looks like there is a mail collector running, and we see all the failed tasks with their object. This is Billing Manager, which is billing. KA gate is a key key agent verifying for licenses somehow. PEMGate is the gateway to operations, and there an order cancellation failed on the 10th of February. We have an order status change that invokes an order flow. So this is how I can read it. I can go in, and the order doesn't contain a row with a specific ID. I always love that that message. So I have to look into what is this all about. There is an event. I don't see for which subscription, but there is an order here. I see the order ID. So I can now search for that specific order ID and see what is happening. So I go to orders. Make sure you don't look for order number, but you want to search for the order ID. It's not available. It could be in the all orders, so I need to add that column here as well. So it's probably an order from a reseller. Or there's something else wrong, and I don't know what it is in this case. Order ID, there it is. Let's see, Control C. All orders, let's verify all orders, Control V. Not sure what is happening here. Here are the blocked orders. Well, doesn't matter. At least you can use it if needed. Go to the logs of the system. Let's go here. Of course, if we have failed tasks, it's the never-ending story. You try to find a reason. If you think you found the reason, you fix it. You rerun the task. If it still doesn't work, try another solution, right? That's the whole story. For cancellation, be aware that there are different answers to this question. That sounds a little bit weird, but what we mean to say here that if we want to cancel a task, it is dangerous to just cancel a simple task. Like in this case, if we would cancel the failed task, this one here, the system might continue with this one and it might think everything is provisioned, etc., etc. You don't want that because in this case, these two are, let's say, parent and child. So we want to make sure that these two are together. If the first step doesn't work, the second step should also be canceled. So in general, what we are supposed to say is you always cancel a task tree. And I've done that for ages until at some point I talk to managed services and they say, no, don't say that. Don't say cancel task trees always. What did they mean? If you look at the integration with Microsoft, Microsoft does bulk transactions. That means that it will process multiple tasks for different subscriptions in one go. The downside if you cancel the entire task tree is that you might mess up 4, 5, 6, 10, 20 subscriptions. So for Microsoft stuff, just cancel the single task that is blocking the rest from processing. For other services, look at what is there. Look at what is there and draw your own conclusion. If there is, in this case, a parent-child relationship where here we unprovision something. So that means if we cancel this one and this one goes okay, we have a residue somewhere that should not be there. We have a coupon for APS application BitTitan that should have been deleted, but is not deleted yet. So in this case, I don't want to cancel the individual task. We have to really think about what are we seeing there, what are we doing in each individual scenario. This has changed. I want to go to billing events. We used to have, with event handling, we used to have two ways of doing it. We had a default event and a custom event. We decided that that should not be the case anymore. We want every event, whether it is for you as a provider or you as a sub reseller or whatever, we want it to be handled the same way. So the default event handling tab and the custom event handling tab are not there anymore. So if we have something like an account created, what happens at that point? We want this to propagate to operations. So we have a billing manager. So that's a billing handler that handles the account created event in a way that it sends the same information to operations. If needed, we will also notify the account. Notify the account. And this is, of course, where the notifications that we talked about last Friday and event handling comes together. Because if you don't want to send out the notification that an account was created, we can, of course, disable that notification in notifications, or we could remove it here. The advantage of disabling the notification is it's easier to, let's say, repair if you want it later. Because message account notification, you see that there are signatures in there. The event type is there, the message, the event handler parameters, all those things you need to, let's say, document before you delete this handler. So I would leave it in. The only thing I would not do is I would not enable the notification itself. And the third thing it does, there is a remote handler that talks to a specific item where we create that account as well. This means that we have, let's say, some external application that we notify that, hey, we've got a new event, we've got a new account in Commerce. You will probably need it as well. Somebody build an application to maybe see all the applications. This could normally be a CRM application, for instance. We've got a couple of use cases further. Let me go back to my PowerPoint. We've got a couple of items about resource usage. It's getting less and less relevant, but in operations, I can see which resources a customer is using. Let me take Eric. Let's take the customer account, Eric's customer. And here we see which resources the customer is using. Sorry, here. In this case, there is nothing. I can see this per subscription, but I can also see the generic resource usage. In this case, not that very relevant because SaaS works in a different way. Failed orders for a specific service. We can use order queues, we can use provisioning queues. I prefer, if it's really about a specific service, I would prefer to have a provisioning queue. It's one of those things that are not showing here. I will quickly create one. It is under order processing. I can create provisioning queues. I'm going to add one, demo. And I assign it, in this case, to the role that I am in, and I'm adding a detail because in the case of provisioning queues, I can use the service template as as a parameter. So I want to see every service that has been created through the Office 365 service template. And then, of course, any status that is in a failed status. So in this queue, I only see Office 365 things. Save. And of course, what we exclude is, of course, everything that is in a completed status. I don't have order statuses yet because I did not select the order type, but that means that if I have a sales order, that is in, of course, it needs to be a SO. That is in a CP status, completed. Let's search for that. There it is. Save. I don't want to see change orders in the completed status and everything like that, right? Basically everything that is the desired end state I don't want to see. And if I then go there, I have a demo queue. In this case, there is nothing in it, but I know that the only thing that I will see in this queue is stuff that is related to that specific service template. I'm responsible for troubleshooting Microsoft 365. This is my queue. For the rest, we have a pointer on the troubleshooting flow. Where would you go for the troubleshooting flow? Well, from our perspective, you always start at the failed order. In the failed order, there's a failed provisioning item. If that doesn't help you, there is a service status history. There are failed tasks. For the failed task, there are last execution outputs. And of course, when you have pinpointed there, that should bring you to, let's say, to at least part of the root cause. You fix it and you rerun it again. Either you trigger the execution of failed tasks in billing, or you resubmit the order for provisioning. That always works as well. Trigger the execution of failed tasks means that we already do the operation stuff, and the moment those are successfully completed, when we resubmit the order for provisioning, billing is going to assign that to operations, and operations in that case sees, hey, I've just done that. Here's the answer. That's basically what it does. It will not resubmit the whole process again, so the customer will not end up having 2 subscriptions, or the customer having 1 subscription and you having to pay for 2. Resubmit order for provisioning. It will verify if that order has been processed already. Some order statuses that you need to know about what the trouble is. This is something that you can look into, that you can, I would say, learn by heart, or just see what the meaning is of that item. The operations requests, and this is, I have from billing, I posted a task in operations. Operations is running, and then we're going to poll. We're going to look if it worked. So for the first hour, the system for that specific item is going to poll every 5 seconds. Then the next 5 hours in total, this is all from the beginning again. We have a little weird way of saying it. But for the next 5 hours, for that request, we poll every minute. If there are more current scenarios that have happened, of course, for those operations, we will poll every 5 seconds. After that, we go for the next 18 hours, we go for 10 minutes. And then for the next 6 days, we go for an hour. And eventually, if we don't get a decent response within that item, or within that week, we fail the order. Why do we do that? Because initially in our older versions, we did not go to a failed status. We would just wait. And the problem with a wait status is that you cannot do anything about it. You cannot even cancel the order and everything related to it because it's still waiting for provisioning. So we decided, okay, we have to at some point fail the operation. If it takes a week, it takes a week, but we have to fail that operation. And that's why this is there. Create service. In the new status, it looks like something is wrong because this should have been, this is an order item ID. This should have been sent to operations already. If it's just in the new status, it's weird because operations doesn't have the subscription yet. That means that the synchronization or communication between operations and billing is broken. So my first solution was, who touched the platform first recently? Who has been doing maintenance? Talk to that new firewall guy that decided that there is traffic going back and forth between two servers that he doesn't know on a port that he doesn't recognize. So let's block it. Right? That my first thought is not check if this is up and running. Let's be honest. If I can see in operations that there is no related task, operations is up and running, right? That I don't know how the person that created this slide is thinking, but if I can log in and if I can see that there is no operations task.
Not seeing the slide, just for you to know.
Oh, man, I'm too enthusiastic.
Yeah, we were seeing it and then we were not anymore.
So if operations is up and running, I can see that there is nothing in operations. If I cannot see operations, I have a bigger issue because I cannot log in, I cannot go to billing, etc., etc. So for me, this first step is, I would almost say, a weird step, but it's good to verify it. It could have dropped somehow in the meantime, but when it comes to troubleshooting, let's be honest, if I can see in operations that there is no subscription, I know that operations is up and running. My first solution is,
but there are all those sub services that the operation service uses. I forgot the name of the service. That one of those could be in failure. Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah,
I've been there.
But it's
but it's rare. It's rare. It's not our first option. It's definitely not the first option.
Yeah. My first thought would be, what happened? Where did we have a maintenance window recently? And not maybe from a cloud WooCommerce perspective, but was there network maintenance done? Was there firewall maintenance done? Did we do upgrades on operating systems that might have misset things? That's what my first thought would be. Yeah. If that is not the case, I go for these solutions, right? Provisioning failure identification. Service creation failed. We have our error message here. This is the error message. Now we have to translate it into what went wrong. The yellow bar on sales orders, change orders, billing orders, everything, those are the key starting points. Read what it says. Sometimes the error is bogus or is garbage that I cannot do anything about it. But in most cases, especially with SaaS services, the feedback we get from the service itself is ported from the service to operations, and from operations, it's ported to the sales order as an error message. So you can read what it says, and in most cases, it gives you good feedback. So that yellow bar is there for a reason. Use that reason. In our billing events, we have different statuses. We can see what is there. We see the let's say, the flow of that same subscription going on. Cancellation order was there, the service was stopped. There was a request to delete the service. So that is the destroy on cancel. Checkbox, deletion is completed. That means that the service now is destroyed with the message that the subscription passed the termination date. That is important for the platform to realize that this subscription cannot be revived anymore. Of course, this would depend on, again, how the service is, or the vendor is treating that service. Do we allow for cancellation, for destruction on cancellation? Microsoft doesn't, for instance. So in that case, we should not check that box and we don't get that message in that case. When we have our events, this is more of a slide to hang somewhere near your desk so you can see if the event itself says the event type is stop and delete service. What are we doing? Stop and delete service. So we should in the logs see this method being handled, BM : stop and delete service. Of course, if successful, we get a callback that says deletion completed, which means that if you look at the flow itself, you would get a BM : on service delete. So it was successful. Or we have a BM : on service deletion failed. So this is how things work. Provisioning items are key in your process. And that brings us to this slide of the questions for this module. So what questions do you have? And if not, give me that thumbs up, please.
Yeah, I sort of have a question, but I'm not sure if I have a question. Let's move on.
Okay.
Let me elaborate on it. It's a little bit.
Okay, if you have a question, send it to me by email. If you think you have a question.
By the way, I sent you an email last week, I think, or the week before.
Yeah, I think I answered that one.
No, unless you went to spam or something.
Okay, I will look at it because I think I wrote an answer and maybe I did not say. I will verify. I will verify.
Thank you, Eric.
Okay, guys, in that case, thank you very much for being here. Hope to see you on Monday on the last session, the session about resellers. I know that at least Ana Paula will be sitting there half an hour before the session starts.
Sort of, possibly.